Emotions are the fuel of action. They are the silent forces behind every decision, every motion, every hesitation, and every triumph. Long before a man lifts his hand, long before he moves a step toward his goal, he has first moved within himself. His emotions, though unseen, become the momentum that drives him forward or the chains that hold him back. You may believe that logic alone rules your choices, that you operate solely on reason and rationale, but observe your own life carefully. Every great leap, every act of courage, every retreat in fear, began with a feeling. Desire is emotion, hope is emotion, so is fear, so is doubt. When one decides to change their life, it is not because they have suddenly received new information. It is because something moved them, a feeling emerged, grew, and took hold of their spirit. That feeling, when nurtured and believed in, becomes desire, and desire is the starting point of all achievement. A man with knowledge but no emotional drive will sit still. He may have all the answers, all the tools, and all the opportunity, but without the emotional ignition, the spark of purpose, the burning need to act, he will stay in his chair and watch life pass him by. In contrast, a man with even limited understanding, but who is seized by fierce emotion, whether it's the fire of determination or the agony of desperation, will leap into action, break through obstacles, and create results. Emotions, when directed properly, can make the average man exceptional. The reason so few people achieve their deepest goals is not lack of ability. It is because they allow their emotional state to remain untrained, unchecked, and unfocused. One day they feel excited and so they act. The next they feel uncertain and so they stall. Their life becomes a reflection of their emotional randomness. The great truth is that consistency in life requires consistency in emotion. You do not succeed when you feel like it. You succeed when you act, regardless of how you feel, and that begins with emotional mastery. Most people live their lives reacting to emotion instead of using it. If they are tired, they rest. If they are sad, they stop. If they are angry, they speak without thinking. Their life is led by emotion instead of driven by it, and so they wander. But the man who uses his emotion instead of being used by it becomes a force of nature. He does not wait for motivation, he creates it. He does not run from fear, he converts it into preparation. He does not deny pain, he transforms it into hunger. Think of every world-changing figure in history. They were not cold, robotic strategists. They were emotional beings, deeply stirred by a vision, a belief, a cause, or a pain that demanded change. They did not act out of passive calculation. They acted because something inside them burned too brightly to ignore. Emotion, properly focused, becomes the weapon of change, but this does not mean acting on every feeling. No, it means cultivating the right emotional state until it becomes your natural position. It means learning to summon confidence, determination, courage, and desire at will, not waiting for them to arrive by accident. Emotional mastery does not mean the absence of feeling. It means the intentional shaping of what you feel and when you feel it. It is the art of choosing the right inner fuel for the task at hand. In moments of fatigue, the average man succumbs to the emotion of weariness. He says, "I don't feel like it," and so he stops. But the man who understands the mechanics of emotion recognizes this feeling, acknowledges it, but replaces it. He says, "Yes, I feel tired, but I choose to feel energized. I choose to act." He has trained himself to associate effort with pride, struggle with growth, and pain with purpose. Over time, these emotional associations become habits, and these habits determine destiny. Every action, every goal, every success is preceded by an emotion. You must feed your mind with the emotions that align with the life you want. You must reject the emotions that sabotage your progress. No one will hand you the perfect emotional state. It is a discipline you must build day by day, choice by choice. The emotional state you live in most often will shape the direction of your life. The truth is that you don't need more motivation. You don't need better circumstances. You need control over your emotional frequency. When you feel low, when you feel lost, when you feel unsure, those are not signs to stop. They are signals to rise, to reframe, to re-engage with your purpose. Emotion is not your enemy, it is your power source, but only if you take the wheel. If you wake up feeling flat, do not wait for the world to inspire you. Inspire yourself, move your body, speak words of fire, visualize the outcome, stir your soul into motion. This is how leaders think. This is how champions operate. They are not passive recipients of emotion. They are producers of emotional power, and because they produce that energy consistently, they act consistently, and because they act consistently, they win. Even the most difficult emotions, fear, anger, anxiety, can be repurposed. When fear strikes, do not run. Ask yourself, what does this fear point to? What must I strengthen to overcome it? When anger burns inside you, do not lash out. Ask, what does this emotion teach me about what matters to me? Use that clarity, direct it toward the mission. When anxiety weighs you down, do not drown in it. Use it as a reminder that preparation is needed. Turn nervousness into readiness. Turn emotion into movement. The difference between the person who rises and the person who falls is not their circumstances. It is how they handle what they feel. Emotions will come. They are part of being alive. But mastery belongs to the one who decides what those emotions mean and what to do with them. You cannot afford to live at the mercy of random emotional states. You cannot allow your dreams to rest in the hands of unstable feelings. You must become the commander of your inner world. You must teach yourself to feel what serves you and ignore what weakens you. You must become immune to emotional drift. Emotions are powerful, yes, but their power must be governed, just as fire must be contained in a forge to shape steel. Left wild, it will consume. Focused, it will create. When you understand this, truly understand it, you will stop waiting for inspiration and start building it. You will stop chasing feeling and start creating the emotional conditions for action. And from that action, everything else flows, your habits, your results, your legacy. It all begins with one thing: the emotions you allow to dominate your heart and mind. For emotion is not just the reaction to life, it is the creator of life. Master emotion and your actions will align. Master your actions and your life will follow. Emotional mastery begins with awareness. It does not begin with control, suppression, or redirection. It begins with the quiet, deliberate act of noticing. To master anything, you must first understand it. And to understand your emotions, you must become an observer of your internal world, not a victim of it. Most people live on autopilot. They are moved, shaken, and controlled by emotions they never fully examine. They react before they think. They speak before they understand. They decide without ever pausing to ask, what am I feeling and why am I feeling it? Awareness is the first gate. Without it, you are a puppet in the hands of unseen forces. With it, you gain the power to choose. The man who learns to pause before the reaction owns a kind of power that no wealth or title can give. It is the power to lead oneself. Most people believe they know what they're feeling, but they don't. They say they're angry when in fact they are hurt. They say they're bored when in fact they are afraid of failure. They say they are tired when in truth they are uninspired. Emotions wear disguises. They come layered and tangled, and unless you slow down and examine them, you will mistake the symptom for the cause. You will address the wrong issue and wonder why nothing changes. To become emotionally aware is to become honest with yourself. It is the discipline of turning inward, not in weakness, but in strength. When others blame the world, you must look within. When others explode outwardly, you must turn the spotlight inwardly. You must study yourself like a strategist studies the terrain. Your mind is your battlefield, and your emotions are the weather. Some days are storms, some days are clear skies. but the man who studies the patterns can predict the weather, prepare for it, and move in spite of it. Emotional awareness is not natural, it must be built. You build it by asking the right questions in the heat of the moment. What am I really feeling right now? What triggered this response? Is this emotion useful to me right now? These questions are the doorway to insight. And insight is the beginning of self-control. You cannot control what you refuse to face. You cannot improve what you deny. And so many walk through life unaware of how their past controls their present, how their beliefs shape their emotions, how their habits feed their moods. To wake up is to begin the journey of mastery, but waking up takes courage. It means seeing your flaws without judgment. It means acknowledging your emotional weaknesses without shame. Only then can you begin to rise above them. A man who is emotionally aware does not fear his own feelings. He becomes curious about them. When sadness comes, he explores it. When jealousy flares, he investigates it. When fear rises, he examines it. He is not ruled by these emotions because he sees them for what they are, data, not destiny. Emotions are messengers. They carry signals from your thoughts, your beliefs, and your unmet needs. If you dismiss them, you miss the message. If you chase them blindly, you lose control. But if you listen, question, and reflect, you gain power. In every moment of decision, there is a small space. In that space, there is a choice to react or to respond. The difference between the two lies in awareness. A reaction is automatic. A response is deliberate. A man who is emotionally unaware will always react. He will lash out in anger, retreat in fear, or give up in sadness, and then blame the world for the outcomes he created. But the man who is aware pauses, considers, and then chooses the response that aligns with his higher purpose. This kind of awareness is not only internal but also external. Emotional awareness includes the ability to read others, to detect the hidden emotions behind their words and actions. When you become emotionally aware, you stop taking things personally. You begin to understand that other people's behaviors often reflect their own emotional battles. You become compassionate without being weak, assertive without being aggressive, and calm even in the face of provocation. Such awareness also prevents manipulation. A man who knows his emotional triggers cannot be controlled by them. He cannot be baited, tricked, or guilted into surrendering his values. His awareness becomes his shield. He sees through the emotional games of others. He recognizes when someone is appealing to his ego, or provoking his pride, or pressing on his insecurities. And because he sees it, he is free to act differently. To become emotionally aware is to take full responsibility for your internal state. No longer do you say, "They made me angry." You say, "I felt anger in response to what they did, and I choose what to do with it." That is maturity. That is power. Emotional awareness gives you freedom from being a slave to outside conditions, freedom from being tossed around by every feeling, freedom to stay steady when others are unstable. It is also the root of emotional transformation. You cannot shift what you do not see. Once you are aware of a recurring emotional pattern, say, fear when facing new challenges, you can begin to unravel it. You can trace it back to its source. You can challenge the belief behind it. You can replace it with a more empowering association. But none of that is possible without awareness. Change begins not with effort, but with clarity. Most men focus on controlling the world. They want to control outcomes, events, and other people. But the wise man knows that control begins within. Emotional awareness is the foundation. Before you master your habits, your time, your relationships, or your business, you must master your emotions. And mastery begins with observation. Watch yourself like a hawk. Watch what makes you lose your focus. Watch what words trigger your defensiveness. Watch what situations drain your energy. Watch how your emotional state shifts throughout the day, not to judge yourself, not to shame yourself, but to learn. Every pattern reveals a truth, and the more you learn about yourself, the more influence you gain over the direction of your life. You are not your emotions. You are the observer of your emotions. And once you understand this distinction, you are no longer bound by every impulse, every mood swing, every emotional high and low. You begin to create a space between stimulus and response. In that space, you find your freedom. Most people wait for life to calm down so they can feel better. But the man who is emotionally aware creates calm within himself. He becomes the eye of the storm. Others panic, he plans. Others react, he reasons. Others follow their emotions, he leads them. To walk this path requires discipline. At first, it may feel unnatural to pause and reflect. You may forget to ask the right questions. You may still react at times. But persistence builds habit, and habit becomes identity. The more you practice emotional awareness, the more it becomes second nature. Over time, you stop being tossed by every feeling and start shaping them. You become centered, grounded, and powerful, not because you are emotionless, but because you are in command. Every powerful achiever, every man who has risen from obscurity to greatness, has learned the same unspoken truth. That emotion is energy, and the most powerful results come when that energy is converted into purpose. The average man feels something and lets it pass. He might be hurt, angry, disappointed, or even inspired, but he does nothing with it. The exceptional man, the man of destiny, takes that same emotion and transmutes it. He refines it, redirects it, and channels it into forward motion. He does not suppress it, nor does he surrender to it. He uses it. Transmutation is the skill of turning emotional energy into focused action. It is what separates those who are consumed by their feelings from those who conquer through them. Pain becomes power, frustration becomes fuel, heartbreak becomes hunger. The emotions that cripple one man are the very same ones that elevate another. The difference lies in what they do with them. Every man will face failure. Every man will encounter disappointment, betrayal, and setbacks that shake him to his core. These are not rare occurrences, they are part of life. But what you do in those moments will define the entire arc of your life. Some men break, some men bend, and a rare few rise. What allows them to rise is not the absence of pain, but their decision to assign it a new meaning. Instead of asking, "Why did this happen to me?" they ask, "What can I build from this?" This shift, this act of mental alchemy, is the beginning of emotional transmutation. It begins with recognition. You must see your emotions not as obstacles, but as raw material. A craftsman sees blocks of stone where others see useless rock. A builder sees potential where others see ruin. You must do the same with what you feel. Anger can destroy, yes, but anger, rightly aimed, becomes intensity, focus, and drive. Sadness can paralyze, but sadness, understood, becomes depth, empathy, and resolve. Even fear, perhaps the most avoided emotion of all, can become your greatest ally. Fear sharpens you, fear makes you alert, fear reminds you what is at stake. When used well, it becomes the spark that ignites courage. Purpose requires emotion. A man without feeling is a man without fire. He may go through the motions of success, but there will be no force behind his actions. His energy will fade, his discipline will waver, and his results will be shallow. Purpose is not found in logic alone. It is born from something deeper. It is forged in the furnace of experience. What drives a man to greatness is not a spreadsheet or a checklist. It is a feeling so intense that it demands expression. It becomes the reason he wakes up early, the reason he fights through obstacles, the reason he keeps going long after others quit. To transmute emotion into purpose, you must decide what your life will stand for. You must take the moments that hurt you, the experiences that shook you, and say, "This will mean something." That is how great men are born. Not in comfort, not in calm, but in the choice to extract purpose from pain. There is no formula more powerful than the man who has something to prove, not to others, but to himself. The man who has known defeat, who has tasted failure, who has felt humiliated and cast aside, but who says, "I will rise from this, and I will build something greater than what was broken," that man becomes unstoppable. His past becomes fuel, his scars become symbols, his emotion becomes motion. This is not an abstract idea, it is practical, it is necessary when you face an emotional wave. Whether grief, rage, loss, or fear, you have only two options. Let it drown you or learn to ride it. Emotional transmutation is the art of taking that wave and turning it into momentum. It does not mean you ignore what you feel. It means you give it direction, you harness it. You place it under discipline, the energy is already inside you. All that is missing is structure. Purpose is not something you find, it is something you create, and you create it when you give your emotions a job to do. Instead of letting them run wild, you assign them to a mission. You say, this pain will fuel my discipline, this anger will sharpen my focus, this heartbreak will deepen my drive. You take what was once chaotic and make it constructive. That is the essence of transmutation. Think of a man who loses everything. His business collapses, his reputation is ruined, his name dragged through the mud. Most would shrink, most would disappear, but a rare man will take that fall and turn it into fire. He will work in silence, he will rebuild, and the next version of himself will be forged by that very failure. Why? Because he did not reject his emotion, he redirected it. This is available to anyone. No matter your background, your status, or your past, you can choose to use what you feel. You can turn your most volatile emotions into your greatest strength, but you must be willing to look within. You must face what hurts. You must be honest about what drives you. The man who pretends to feel nothing will never transmute anything. He will bury his energy, and with it his potential. Do not be ashamed of strong emotion. Feel deeply, then act wisely. Let your emotions show you where your values are. Let them reveal what matters to you. Then take that clarity and commit to it. Build your routines, your goals, your habits around that clarity. Discipline, when fueled by emotion, becomes purpose, and purpose, sustained by action, becomes destiny. Many speak of motivation as if it is something to chase, but true drive comes not from outside. It is built inside when you learn to transform your emotional fuel. Some will seek comfort. They will avoid pain and shield themselves from discomfort. But pain is often the birthplace of your greatest mission. What you survive can become what you serve. What you conquer within becomes what you create without. Do not wait for purpose to knock on your door. Create it from your darkest nights. Extract your brightest flame. From the tears you have shed, form the rivers that will carry your vision forward. From the rage you have swallowed, forge the iron of your discipline. Every emotion holds power. Every emotion, when understood and redirected, becomes a stepping stone toward greatness. You are not here to be controlled by feeling. You are here to convert it. You are not here to be weakened by emotion. You are here to be fueled by it. That is the choice of every man who refuses to let life happen to him and instead chooses to happen to life. What you feel does not have to be final. What you feel can become force. Transmute it and everything changes. The man who masters his emotions becomes the master of his decisions, and through those decisions he shapes his destiny. For every action there is a feeling that precedes it. Every decision, whether wise or foolish, is influenced by an emotion that either clouds the mind or clears the way. The ability to make powerful, intentional decisions in the face of emotion, not the absence of it, is what separates leaders from followers, creators from complainers, builders from bystanders. Most people make decisions reactively. They feel something in the moment: frustration, fear, urgency, desire, and without a second thought, they act. They say yes when they should say no. They walk away when they should stand firm. They rush in when patience is needed, or they hesitate when boldness is required. Their life becomes a series of emotional reactions rather than strategic moves. But the man who masters emotion brings clarity to his choices. He sees the space between the feeling and the decision, and in that space he pauses, thinks, and acts with purpose. A decision made under the grip of unmastered emotion is rarely wise. Fear breeds avoidance, Anger breeds destruction. Excitement without discipline breeds impulsiveness. But when these same emotions are understood and reined in, they become allies. The man who knows his fear still moves forward, but with caution and foresight. The man who understands his anger still acts, but with calculated intent. The man who feels excitement does not rush blindly, he channels it into momentum backed by reason. Emotion does not have to be the enemy of sound decisions. It becomes a weapon when disciplined. To reach this level of decision-making mastery, one must first eliminate emotional distortion. When a man's mind is clouded by unresolved emotion from the past, from trauma, from insecurity, his judgment is skewed. He sees through a lens shaped by his wounds, not by truth. Every opportunity looks like a trap. Every risk feels like a threat. Every relationship feels like a danger. To make clear decisions, a man must first clean his emotional mirror. He must confront the shadows within him and face the truths he has been avoiding. Self-honesty is not a luxury, it is a necessity. Without it, every decision will be tainted. Great decisions are not always logical, but they are always aligned with principle. The man who leads his life by a code by values he has chosen and refined uses emotion not as a compass, but as a signal. He does not ask, "What do I feel like doing?" He asks, "What does my mission demand?" When the emotional storm hits, he returns to his principles. That is his anchor. Emotion may rise, but it does not steer, his code does. Every successful man has made painful decisions, the kind that cost comfort, the kind that isolated him, the kind that others didn't understand. These were not easy decisions, but they were necessary, and each one required emotional strength. Because to choose discipline over ease, vision over validation, growth over comfort, that is not a choice made in the absence of emotion. It is a choice made in the presence of it and in defiance of it. That is mastery. You must train yourself to see decisions as builders of character. Each one is a brick. Make enough weak decisions and you build a weak life. Make enough strong ones and you build a foundation that can withstand anything. You must begin to treat small decisions with great seriousness. The decision to get up on time, the decision to say no to distraction, the decision to finish what you start. These decisions, though small in the moment, become the architecture of your identity. The man who waits to feel ready will never act. The man who waits for perfect certainty will remain stuck. Emotional mastery gives you the strength to decide even when doubt lingers, even when fear whispers, even when the crowd hesitates. Because you know that indecision is itself a decision one that leads nowhere. Every time you delay, every time you avoid, every time you let emotion override action, you lose a piece of your power. But each time you decide boldly, you reclaim it. Greatness is not born in comfort, it is forged in the fire of difficult choices. The choice to walk alone when others follow the crowd. The choice to act with integrity when compromise would be easier. The choice to invest in the long-term vision when the short-term gain looks tempting. These choices require emotional endurance. They require you to say yes to discomfort, to uncertainty, to sacrifice because you see the bigger picture. And that vision becomes your guide when emotion tries to blur your path. A man who leads with emotion alone is unstable. He is up when things go well and down when they don't. His life becomes a roller coaster of reactions, and he never gains traction. But the man who uses emotion as information, not instruction, begins to stabilize. He checks the emotion, acknowledges it, and then consults his mission. He asks, what serves the outcome I want? And not what will make me feel better right now. That one question changes everything. Decision-making is a muscle. And like any muscle, it grows through resistance. You will be tested. There will be moments where every fiber of your being screams to turn back, to give in, to choose the path of least resistance. In those moments, emotion will tempt you and you must resist. You must call on your higher self, the one not governed by fleeting feelings but guided by legacy. The more you train this, the faster and stronger your decisions become. Eventually, you move through life with certainty, not because you always know the outcome, but because you trust your process. Decide who you want to be, and let every emotion that comes push you closer to that man, not further away. When fear shows up, use it to sharpen your preparation. When doubt creeps in, use it to test your resolve. When anger rises, use it to fuel your discipline. Every emotion becomes a servant when the man is in command. Mastering emotion for better decisions does not mean becoming cold or robotic. It means becoming intelligent with your energy. It means knowing when to listen to emotion and when to override it. It means knowing that not every feeling deserves a response, and not every impulse leads to truth. The more you practice, the more you will recognize emotional patterns. You will spot the traps before you fall into them. You will see the same fear that stopped you once and walk through it. You will feel the same temptation and turn from it. Because you have trained your decision making to serve your purpose, not your comfort. This is the path of strength. It is not glamorous. It is not always praised, but it is powerful, and it is available to every man who is willing to feel deeply and decide wisely. Each time you act with intention, despite emotion, you build strength. Each time you choose what's right over what's easy, you gain ground. Over time, you become the kind of man who does not waver, who does not falter, who moves forward with quiet, unshakable confidence, not because emotion does not exist, but because it no longer controls the wheel.